So now officially Best Picture nominee, Call Me By Your Name, finally got to see it. Italy, 1986. A guy named Oliver comes to a family's house to stay over the summer and study with the professor, who's the father of the family. And over his weeks there, he starts to build a relationship with Elio, who's the son. In order for me to really kind of dig in to what I thought about this movie, there were two things I kind of had to separate from the reasoned reactions and then just kind of emotional reactions from things I think morally. The first thing is that there is a large age difference between the two characters. There's about a 9 or 10 year age difference between the two characters. And the second being that the way Elio especially handles the kind of two relationships that he's in kind of bothered me initially, so I had to kind of shove that aside. So once I kind of separate those things out of the way, I was really able to kind of dig through what I thought about this film. And so really the film kind of tells you what it's going to be about in the beginning. In one of the first scenes, when Oliver and Elio first meet, Oliver asks Elio what he does, and Elio responds with, "We wait for summer to be over." And that's a lot of what this film is. It's about waiting. It's about waiting for the summer to end. And when summer ends, Oliver's stay at the house ends. And for better or for worse, this film I thought was really good at making you feel like you were waiting. And the downside to that being is there were a lot of times where I felt extremely bored throughout this film. There's a lot of times where it's just shots of the Italian landscape, which, hey, that looks great. I'm all about that, but it's not really progressing the plot at all. And when they did it enough, I was kind of like, let's get things moving here. There's also shots of just Elio sitting by the pool or Oliver just reading a book. Not really anything happening or moving forward, it's just waiting. In addition to that, another thing that bothered me was that in the relationship between the two characters themselves, there wasn't a whole lot of conflict. I'm not saying it has to be another movie about homophobia and how everyone's getting in the way of these two characters loving each other. I'm just saying all relationships have problems. But while they were together in this film, there weren't really any conflicts. It was just that impending doom of the 6 weeks, 4 weeks, 3 weeks away when the summer ends, and eventually they'll have to be split. But in the time in between, I didn't really feel a sense of urgency, and that led to me being bored throughout large portions of this film. That being said, in a lot of the moments where we're not waiting and things begin to start happening, there were some incredibly strong moments and things that are really going to stick with me. When we do get to see Elio and Oliver interacting by themselves, it leads to some extremely intimate moments and a lot of humorous ones too. After the first night they spend together, Oliver goes into Elio's room and gives him a little bit of extra action just to make sure there's still a little bit of a connection going on there. And also Elio's relationship with Marzia, the girlfriend he has since the beginning of the film. Yes, I mentioned earlier there was a little bit in me that wasn't really happy with how he handled it, but still it was very intriguing to see how he kind of decided how he wanted to go about between his relationship with Marzia and between Oliver, and how he wanted to handle those two different situations. And of course, along with the Best Picture nomination, we have Timothée Chalamet getting nominated for his role as Elio, and he does a phenomenal job. Yes, there are a lot of moments where it's just waiting or doing simple tasks, but especially he does have that Oscar moment at the end of the film, and the last shot that they hold through the end credits was one of the most beautiful things I've seen in a film this year. And a lot of people are talking about the actor that plays his dad is one of the snubs. I don't necessarily agree with that, because even for a supporting actor, I don't know that he was part of the film enough to get nominated, but I could definitely see how just from his one long monologue that he has with Elio towards the end of the film, that could get him nominated, because it was so powerful and there were so many thought-provoking things that he said, and it wasn't just the writing that made it sound good, it was his delivery that really put the sincerity behind it and drew a lot of the emotion and closure to the relationship between Oliver and Elio. And one more thing that loved, oh my god, oh, the music in this film was so good. There's not a lot of it. It's used very sparsely, and the first time a song came up that wasn't actually part of like what was happening, I perked up because I was like, whoa, okay, well, like this is clearly being used very specifically. Not only was it, but Sufjan Stevens' phenomenal music. It worked fantastic in the movie, and I've listened to it plenty of times since going to see it. And as we do get to the end of the film, I felt like there was a lot of questions that this movie raised that it didn't give answers to, and if it did, they were vague answers that you could make very educated guesses on, but you didn't know for sure. It's definitely okay, because I think that's what the movie wanted to do, is it made it feel real, that you didn't have secure answers for everything. But the type of movie viewer that I am, I kind of wanted that closure, which sure, that's a little lazy for me, but hey, that's why it's my opinion, and I'm just telling you why I thought that. Overall, this movie is an incredibly slow burn, but it's shot extremely well. The performances are great, the music is great, and there are some incredibly intimate and touching moments. So if you're prepared to do that waiting through the summer with this relationship and feel that bond until it eventually breaks off, then you'll love this movie. But if you don't want to have to wait through that, like I don't think I was ready to do, it might be tough for you to go see it. Overall, since I do actually think it is worth seeing even through that wait, and even though I didn't enjoy it that much, I'm going to give this one a solid rating.